You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process, because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Limitless Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Parnell. Before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to all the podcast platforms, including YouTube at The Bearded Leader is where you can find us. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you're going to want to do this because I promise you, you're going to be excited about the guest that we have today. Our guest today is a friend of mine. He's a multi-unit shop owner who's been in the industry since the age of 8 years old. We're gonna ask questions about that. Our guest today is my friend, Greg Buckley. Greg, thanks for being here.
Oh, man, Josh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Good to be hanging out with you and talking shop, talking industry, and a lot of other things, I guess. So
yeah, of course.
Fun. Very
shop
fun.
Industry, a lot of other things. You've had a lot of other things, a lot of personal things here recently that you've been navigating through in your own life. And so,
it's been kind of crazy. It's been a crazy 2 years. Really humbled to be going through it and getting through everything. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Interesting to say the least. And I guess before we get into that, if you would just share with the audience who you are, what you do. I'd love to hear. I mean, you've been in the industry since you were 8 years old. You've seen a lot of changes over the years, but go ahead and tell us who Mr. Greg Buckley is.
I mean, if people don't know me, I'm Greg Buckley, Buckley's Auto Care here in Wilmington, Delaware, and we have our second shop in Millsboro, Delaware. So like I always say, from the bricks to the beaches here in our state. We became a multi-shop enterprise back in 2022. And since then, we've been growing and reorganizing and kind of like putting an evolutionary spin to our family business. For myself, the whole business was started by my dad in 1966. I came on board in 1968 when I was 8 years old. And yes, I really did pump gas at 8. I started at the pumps and did whatever I could. And then from there, it was just a progression from a pump jockey, or as I always like to say, a petroleum transfer engineer, gives me a better title. Didn't get any more money from Dad because of the title, but, it made me feel good. Made me, prestige title.
Yes, I love it.
It was a running joke, but from there it was lube tech and then technician, manager. We had grown from one location to 5 at the time, I believe, with Fuel Island, and we had one other operation that had a service bay to it. But overall, that didn't last because we're kind of like ill prepared. But then I became owner in 95 when we purchased Dad out. And then we grew from our original location in the heart of the neighborhood to just slightly outside of that to a bigger location. And we've been growing ever since. And we started in 2006 was our expansion to the new building. And then in 22, we finally had the opportunity to move downstate as well, open a location. And now we're completely, like I said, it's an evolution of our company. I'm operating it along with my son and son-in-law. And of course, we have my nephew and we have my sister and we have my wife or another nephew with us as well. So truly, we're a family enterprise. And we like it. We're growing. We really like the energy, getting ourselves together. There's a big difference between one and two, and we're navigating that right now. So, things aren't always peaches and cream, coffee and donuts and all that. There's a couple patches you run into, but yeah, it's that's me. And of course, you see me on social or YouTube and all kinds of other areas. So,
So,
yeah.
been an owner since 1995. So, been in the industry for most of your life.
All of it.
An owner for 30 years.
Yeah.
You mentioned it's not all peaches and cream, coffee and donuts. I'd imagine working so closely with your family. You talk about working with your son, your son-in-law, your nephew.
Yeah.
How are you able to transition from one day your boss man, the next day your dad or uncle,
Yeah.
or father-in-law? What is that like
It's
on a
very
day-to-day basis?
it's very difficult. If I didn't have that experience growing up in a business oriented family, meaning my dad's family, um, they our family's Polish, and my great grandfather immigrated over from Poland, and they at the time they all had their own business, or they were all more into sales, or they had their own businesses. So I was brought up in an environment where we had family dinners where anything went, from business to religion to politics to gambling, cards, liquor, you name it. They were all in the businesses. So we were kind of used to that. But it still doesn't take away the fact that there are difficulties sometimes when you have to be that different person. You have to be the father-in-law or the dad, or the boss. And all that comes with different types of emotions. So, the biggest thing that um, we have to make sure of is that each of us have our own place in the business, and we have our own space to grow in. And that's our challenge right now, is making sure that each of us have our own lane to travel in and make that lane their own. And at the same time offer, make sure that they understand that everybody else has their lane too. And at some point you're going to come to a crossroads where you have to establish, what direction are we going in here? That takes patience and time. And that just goes into the family side as well. Your family dinners and your family get-togethers, you got to be cordial. So in order to keep the family going, you have to make sure that the business, that you're amicable and understanding while doing the business side of things. It's always, the difficulty is when you bring someone new, like my son-in-law. My son-in-law grew up, in a typical dad goes to work, mom goes to work, blue collar situation, no business whatsoever. So, bringing him into that element takes a long time to get used to, you know. And as for my two kids, daughter and my son and daughter, um, they were part of family life here, with my wife and I, but they weren't really part of they weren't really part of the business. They didn't see themselves moving into the business. My daughter still isn't. She has a fantastic position with a company that does a lot of corporation work in Delaware, and she's very good at it, top of her game, compensated very well. My son, on the other hand, had a BA in computer science. He was interning at Apple in Cupertino, came back, went through the Apple corporate culture, corporate, all that stuff, but he didn't see himself staying with that. And at one point, he came in to come back into the business, or to start more into the business. Mm-hmm. Now, a step backward, both of them had worked with my father and myself at the original location as cashiers. Right? So they had a taste of it. They understood what it was like to have a business, to see the cash, to see what takes place, to meet the people. And now my son and son are now are integral to what we're doing now. And they all have their own places, they're managers, and they're helping to groom, the enterprise into something a little bit bigger. So yeah, takes a lot of emotion, a lot of work. You're balancing not only the business, but the family life as well. So
Yeah. One word that comes to mind that I think it takes a lot of is communication, and most importantly, effective communication.
Yeah.
And I really value and admire the fact that you recognize the importance of your team members, especially your family members who are on your team, having their own place, their own lane, and you respecting their lane enough to say, I'm not going to get in your lane, but we do have to establish the ground rules and lay the firm foundation, lay the groundwork to recognize we have to collectively communicate accordingly, so that we're both respecting each other's boundaries, not only setting the boundaries, but keeping the boundaries.
Mhm.
What does communication look like in your shop, but also at home, given the fact that your family is a part of your business like they are?
Well, I tell you, that's a great question because, I'm not afraid to be as transparent as I need to be. I mean, I'll share everything that I feel would be of value, from numbers to performance. And I'll walk in, and if I don't think something's right, I'll let them know either right there or we communicate very effectively from our devices. We're all,
Mhm.
I know might sound crazy, but we're all with one platform, all right, one iOS, and from the shop to family, and even our employees, we're primarily all Apple iOS, right, and all of our devices. It makes communicate. I know this might sound goofy, but because a lot of today communication is agnostic, right? As long as you can get a text message out, you can be clear. As long as you got Slack, you can do all that.
Yeah.
But what makes it easy for us is at any point in time, a document can be shared effectively, quickly. We know there's no bugs. We know the iOS frontward, backward, in between,
Yeah.
outside, and that's, I feel, is a sounds like a small advantage, but trust me, in times when a doc's got to get out, or you need to have something explained completely, or you need to send a quick video, you know exactly the limitations of where your message can go, what you can produce, all that comes into play. And I think it's made us much more effective in communicating directly to one another. Um, and it helps, and that's on the family side as well. Just the other day, to reach my entire family, we just purchased the adjacent property next to the shop in Millsboro, so it's a big moment for us. It's something to celebrate. So I put a photo gallery together, and I shared the photo gallery because everybody in the family's iOS, so it made it easy to capture that moment
Yeah.
and the message and say, guys, guess what? The hard work we just put in is allowing us to reward ourselves for this beautiful property. All
The
right.
the, ru- the room the rumor, Greg, around the industry is that your son-in-law had an Android, and you said, "Hey, if you want to be part of this family or this company, it's blue dots or get out of here."
That's
So,
right.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, no, actually, it wasn't my son-in-law, but one of my employees had. Well, if they do come in with an Android, this is no joke. I
Yeah.
will I will heavily consider them and push them over to iOS. They may struggle a bit, but I will tell them the reasons why. It's just what I explained right here. So, yeah, it
Well,
might.
you know what's funny is, so I used to be an Android user back in, I must have been 2009, 2010, and I was reluctant to switch to iOS, to switch to Apple. And man, that was one of the best switches I've ever made. I mean, it's so I'm saying it a lot, very facetiously with you, but I 100% agree with what you're sharing, and I can understand the level of simplicity, of everyone being on the same platform, the same
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, it really makes such a difference. It might seem, like I said, to the audience and to others, you might laugh it off, but to me, it's one of the bedrocks of how we can be effective, easier. And when you're in a position of leadership, you need to have the quickest way to get a response and to
Yeah.
have an effective response back. So why not give yourself the leg up and have the environment where that message is clear cut, boom, and out and understood. So
As a leadership coach, one of the biggest points of emphasis I make is on communication, and
yeah,
specifically effective communication. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard me say that poor communication is costing shop owners 18% of total salaries being paid out on an annual basis.
yeah,
So,
yep,
and especially for you, Greg, the fact that you have so many family members a part of your business as well, you know that communication is one of the challenges at the shop, but even at home, communication for relationships is one of the biggest challenges in relationships. So anything that we can do to improve communication, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it does. It really helps out, strangely, but it does help.
So Greg, of course, this is a leadership podcast. You just talked about leadership. I'm going to straight up ask you, what does leadership mean to you?
It means being able to draw people into your goals, and to be able to lead them, with their true it's kind of weird. You do want to you need to lead them into your goals, right? You can't push them. You have to lead them. It means that you have to be the example. And I think that being the example is the way that you can express yourself as the leader. You're out there you're out there showing them the way. Leadership is something that you learn. I believe that there are natural leaders. I really think that once you establish yourself in that role, the ability for you to draw people in is critical. The way you do that, like I said, it's lead by example. If you're not willing to do it, then why are you asking others to do it as well?
Yeah.
In my life, I've had the ability to meet some very, very important people. In 2016, I had the pleasure of having lunch and having a real private get together with Jocko Willink. And at the time, he was just being groomed to where he's at today. A good friend of mine, David Fries, who runs a small group called Black Ops. And in that group, there are some really good there's some really good heavy hitters, and locally, not part of the industry. Most wouldn't even know them. But speaking with Jocko and listening to him, one of the things that he had to come to grips with is that as a leader, him and Leaf, they had to draw people in to a situation that could end their life. And that responsibility, I mean, when you have someone like Jocko who's in the front of the room, and this is when he is just starting out. So his emotion from that experience is still kind of raw. Sure. He hadn't left, his position in the armed forces yet, as a SEAL. But he's there expressing himself, and you can see in his face that he still couldn't believe he had to do that. And when he spoke to you, and if you've ever seen Jocko, I mean, his eyes are crystal blue. I mean, I've seen Robin Williams up front and close, and Robin Williams had the same color. I mean, they were, glass, pure. So when they looked at you, they didn't look at you. They could look through you, and Jocko could look through you. And he's up there, and you can see him welling up with emotion. And you just thought to yourself, my God, how do you get somebody to knowingly risk their life for a mission? Convince them that if they go through that door, they may not walk out.
Yeah.
And yet he was able to do that successfully multiple times. And when he lost a person, he was a wreck, but he had to overcome that because he knew that, yes, the one soldier perished, but there were a dozen more behind him that had to succeed. So that interruption, clearly, an emotional situation, but yet you got to go through that. So as a leader, you have to be able to accept and expect the downturns. And you got to be able to take the people that are with you, and you have to be honest with them enough to say, guys, this might not work, or we may have this breakdown. But you know what? If it happens, we're going to have this go on. You're constantly talking. And as an example for myself, when I opened number 2, I had nobody. I didn't bring anybody with me. There was nobody there at the shop. I was determined that if the worst case scenario was I was going to go in and turn wrenches myself, do oil changes, do whatever I could to afford the purchase. the mortgage. But so I had to hurry up and I had an interview and I had to find people. New area to me. I'm in the state of Delaware. Believe me, I've been to the beaches where the shop is. I know it very well. I'm not unfamiliar with the territory. However, I don't have the network of technicians and shop owners down there like I do here in Newcastle. Mm-hmm. So I went down there, and first off, to position myself into that second location, I came back with a plan and I showed my team at first shop. I go, guys, I think we have something here. So I told my family, I said, this is going to be it. We want to do this. I go, here's our plan. Bum, 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 bum. Get down there. I had to find people to open the doors all the way up to the very last minute because the other owners were stringing the deal out and negotiations weren't cut and dry the last minute. They wanted this and that. And you know, I was ready to walk, but I couldn't. I had already interviewed two individuals that I sat them down and I go, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to guarantee you a salary. Here's what we got. I'll guarantee you this, but I don't know how long it's going to work. I go, I'm going in with my eyes open. I said, here's the thing. I'm going to open the door. We're going to get rolling, but I can't guarantee you that a year from now, you're going to be here or I'll be here. This might be a big flop, but I was honest with them enough for them to go, you know what? I'm in.
Yeah.
You're honest with me. You told me, you told me the expectations. We'll go in and we'll see what we can do. And we did it. The three of us started off and we kicked butt. And before you know it, in the first year, I think, yeah, we almost doubled what that shop did in its heyday.
Wow.
Right.
So Greg, that's a level of influence that, you know, to take what Jocko talked about, how do you truly cast a clear enough vision for individuals to not only for you to convince them, but really as a leader to influence them to recognize, hey, we're going to do whatever it takes. It's not going to be easy. It's never going to be perfect, but positive leadership is not naive leadership. And you're staying positive amidst the upcoming challenges. I love that you said this, and I wrote this down: accept and expect the downturns.
Yes.
That is powerful because so many people jump into something with maybe the idea of, as long as I do all the things I'm supposed to do, everything's going to work out. But right. How many times does something really go according to our initial plan? I'm sure that even though you cast a clear vision with the two folks that you interviewed, you probably had to pivot here and there in relation to as you grow from one shop to two shops.
Yeah.
I'll ask you, what was it like to transition from one shop after so many years into your second shop? What were the biggest challenges, but also what were some of the greatest wins that you experienced in that transition?
Well, the biggest challenge was actually considering yourself from a small, you were a small business, considered like a mom and pop shop, right? No disrespect to people there, but you know, you have this stigma. Well, I'm a one shop owner. I'm not equal to the big guys. I'm not equal to the people who have 11 stores, 10 stores, 17 stores. You know, I'm not on the equity path, you know, or the venture path, which a lot of guys will go for. You're small. And then you have small process. You have lesser processes. You don't need to be as hands-on. You have things in control. You can visually see things. You know all that. Well, you go to number two. Now you're an enterprise. You're technically larger than a single. You're, you know, MSO is fine to call yourself multi-shop, but you really are an enterprise, meaning that your whole business model is different. You can't see everything. You have to have people in place to do what you want to do and be effective at it. And
can I ask you, Greg? And I don't mean to cut you off, but I love that you helped me realize something, because I even introduced you as a multi-shop owner, but you also, I heard you say earlier, this is a family enterprise as well.
Yeah, totally different.
And when you introduce your second shop, that also tells me the first shop becomes an enterprise, because now both of these shops fall under this enterprise.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's what the difference is because you've gone from one and you've had everything that you've had is compact, tight. You know it like the back of your hand. You've been there for all this long. You know the neighborhood. You know everything. Well, now the second shop's 85 miles away. And that's an unusual situation to be in.
Hmm.
Number one, because you're not local. I can't go 85 miles and say, well, oh gosh, I forgot this. Let me run around the block and go to shop number two.
Yeah.
No, it's an hour and a half travel. So you have to have things in place. Technology absolutely is critical to make it easier. But again, you're going from here to here. And if your processes aren't even in somewhat um, good shape, or whatever, you don't have the mindset of growth, you kind of find you fall hard, but you also you learn what you didn't have before. So you find your faults fast. You see where the breakdowns are.
Yeah.
And that's where, when you talk about communication, that's where effective communication comes in. That's a critical component, because when you find that error, you have to be, you're not just dealing with one team now. Now you're dealing with two. And now you probably are creating a whole nother process that you never had to before. Like
Yeah.
we had scan tools. Where do we get? We're well saturated with equipment here in Wilmington. All right. Well, how do we get that equipment to use downstate? Right. We don't have the budget to duplicate that. Hardware, software, all that. It's another, geez, $20,000-$30,000 or so. So we have to figure out a way. Well, how can we use a talent? So we use basically, like, I don't say telematics. I don't think it's the right word, but we're able to share effectively. When we first started down there, we had to run inventory down from 1 to 2 because we didn't want to stack up number 1
Yep.
or number 2, because we didn't know what would sell, what wouldn't. So again, we're transferring people, we're meeting midway. There's a lot of this and that, until now it's calming down and you're getting your things situated, your personnel and everything's is now in a groove. So now we were here 0, and now we're here, and we got to get to here, to the next level. So it's a big difference. It's a big difference from going from 1 to 2. After that, it should be quite easy if we wanted to expand further.
I'm going to shift my verbiage from multi-shop owner to enterprise. As you are creating a new enterprise with
Mhm.
multiple locations, what we know is that most enterprisers, I'll call them, will look for their second location nearby their first. What
Mhm.
prompted the length in distance? Was it a unique opportunity or what?
Yeah, absolutely unique. Fortunately, I had a friend who gave me the opportunity, who told me about the opportunity. And at first I said, I wasn't really looking, this and that and all that. And then when I started doing my due diligence, I understood and realized that the second location was in the hotbed of a growth area here in our state. And since all of the groundwork, the gentleman before me laid all the groundwork, he went and got the conditional permits, he did all this. The shop was already built. It came with all the equipment, boom, boom, boom. And I just said, it was like the first shop. All I do is just walk in. And, I made the deal with him privately. And he was in such bad condition that he took a deal that, well, uh, it gave me the advantage. All right. And, it wasn't a traditional deal. There was 3 parts to it, but he had to accept it. So I walked in with as minimum amount as I could, secured the property, and moved on. And that, once I realized where the location was, it was really very easy to say yes.
So
The
I'll ask
hardest
you.
getting them out. Yeah.
So sorry, Greg. I'll ask you now that you've opened your second location. That was what, 3 years ago now. Is a third in the mix
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah. I think, without, I had never thought of number 2 until the opportunity came up. And sometimes it's divine intervention
Sure.
that makes you say yes. And I truly believe that number 2, this location in Millsboro, was divine intervention, and it was a sign. I will explain. I will share that with you, Josh, and anybody that asked me, that was a gift that came my way. And if I said no, I would have really been dumb, really dumb.
Sure.
But and I think that what that did was at the time we needed it. It gave me the opportunity to expand, give more space to my son and son-in-law, another goal to challenge me. I wasn't ready to, sign off and hit the horizon. There's more left in me, and that opportunity was there, so I took it. Um, and now it gives me the encouragement that it can be done again.
Yeah.
And if the right time, the right moment, the right situation comes up, it's not like I'm out looking, but if something came up again, now I'm better prepared for it, financially getting better to be prepared for it. I've got the team behind me now, and it would be easier,
Yes. Yeah.
And so I don't say no, but I'm not that hungry where I have to say yes.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to build 20 locations to flip them. I'm not looking for anything like that. To be honest, I would look at diversifying the family enterprise. So if we got into something different,
Yeah.
it's just something that keeps you active. You got to think the long game. So as owners, and for us more mature individuals. So, a buddy of mine, my dear friend, Mickey, we kid around and we always say that we're 65 and it's the middle of the sixth inning. What do you want? You want to end the game at ninth inning or are you looking for extras? Well, we're looking for extra innings. And so am I.
Yeah.
I want to be happy, productive. I want to still be part of something, in that bottom of the ninth inning, and I'm looking for, extras, get me
Yeah.
to 10. So, figuratively, I'm talking 65 and I'm talking 100. So if I could live a quality life and still be here when I'm 100 years old, which I hope I would be,
Yeah.
that's my long game. It changes your direction. It gives you horizons that you never thought you would have. So how do I live a quality life to 100 years of age? It
Love that.
might not happen. I don't know, but it changes your perspective because, well, if I've got 35 years left in me, what can I do in 35?
Yeah. Because a
You
lot
know,
can be done in 35
a
years.
lot can be done and a lot where you can have fun at it. Being a shop owner is just one part of my life. It might not be part of the next phase of my life. All right.
Greg, would you be willing to share? I know recently, you had a bit of a health scare recently,
Yeah.
and so if we're talking about going into extra innings, it
Yeah.
sounds like you got some extra innings. Would you be willing to
Yes.
share
Yeah, I
your
will. Be
experience and
glad
also
to.
what you've learned
Yeah.
through it?
So, I'm always out. I'm like I said, I'm active. My body type is what it is. I'm not going to be a rail. I'm not going to be as thin as you. I won't be as thin as my dad. It's just my body type. But I keep fairly healthy. I do. I kind of walk. I work out. I do what I got to do to stay healthy. I eat well. Always not the best, but it is what it is. But it started in 2016 actually. To go back to the original one, I had a little small irritation in my chest. Never thought anything about it. I just said it's just kind of odd. So I went to cardiologist back then, and of course EKG, blood, all blah 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 blah, all that done. No problems. I go, okay, great, no problem. And I continued on, and it just bothered me. It wasn't really serious. I thought, well, it will heal, or whatever. Um, and over the years, I didn't really take notice to it. But in 23, when we were right in the first year of being in business,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things started to happen, which was a culmination of what the businesses were doing or what I was doing to keep the businesses, the enterprise, I guess, alive, or what we're doing to grow. And that resulted in a lot of travel time, a lot of back and forth, a lot of some employee turnover, holidays, all of that, and me traveling back and forth, whether it was necessary or not. Um, it produced an incredible amount of stress and bad habits of mine that really started to deteriorate my health. I was irritable, little extra weight gain, a lot of stuff started to happen. And this is just, of course, 22. We were just really coming out of COVID, and I still had results of COVID. Um, I really didn't get my smell or taste back fully until like middle of 22 or
Oh, wow.
actually my taste just came back just last year, I think it was.
Wow.
Complete, yeah, yeah. It was really weird, and I still have things I can't smell. Yeah, I can't smell, or if I do smell them, they get me sick.
Mm.
Just bizarre. So anyway, all this health matters started coming up, and in 24 or 23, um, I literally had to stop and say, "Okay, guys," I went to my family. I go, I'm done. I'm getting out. I'm really going to throttle back." So we planned accordingly. That's when they knew that, all right, the game is going to intensify on their end. And
Sure.
I told them so. I go, you expectations are, is that you're going to start to do things a little bit differently. We're going to get this thing together because your dad has got to focus on his health. And that's what my goal is. So in 24, I'm trying to take care of myself. I got multiple medical cuffs on, dialed in, my watch, my phone, everything. And, so we're in Disney with my granddaughter and my daughter and son-in-law. We're having a family vacation. And, I come across the countries. There's Mexico and all this, and you walk across a bridge to the old country. Well, we get in the middle of this bridge, Josh. I had an attack that stopped me in my feet. I stopped me in my tracks right then and there, and it was right here. And I tell you that I thought, okay, this is it.
Mm.
We're having the big one, and I'm just waiting for the results. I stood there just waiting, going, I'm either going to like fall to the ground or I'm just going to calm down. And unfortunately, I just was able to calm down. And I'd had an appointment with my cardiologist after we got back, and that was already preset. But I get there and I see him, and he starts looking at me like, man, he starts hollering at me. This is the weirdest thing because it's a great example. This is a really good example of really not listening to your client, right?
Hmm.
And instead of listening, you should be listening to what the car needs. So he's looking at me. And back in 23, when I saw him just about a year from then, he listened to me when I'm saying it's a chest pain. And he gave me Tylenol. And he goes, well, your EKG is good, your blood's good, all that. He goes, let's try a week of Tylenol and all this. He didn't listen to himself. He didn't listen to his experience. He let me dictate the conversation.
Yeah.
So in 24, when I saw him and I explained to him about the Disney episode, man, he sat me down and he hollered at me. He goes, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I could see in him, he was taking the blame.
Yeah. Talk about accountability. That's huge.
Exactly. It was accountability. No, he was crap in the bed
Yeah.
because he looked back at the charts. He goes, man, you were a little high on your cholesterol. You should, and then he was really ticked off.
Mm.
I come back and I go, well, doc, I'm a good salesman. And he didn't laugh. He did not laugh at that. He was kind of angry. So he
Yeah.
jumped into test number 2, which is a new test, which put me in the hospital, which put me under the procedure. And when you want to talk about divine intervention, right? So my parish priest gave me a bottle of water from Lourdes prior to me going in. And I said, okay. So I actually took a video of it, me drinking the bottle of water from Lourdes, where he just came from. And I sent it to him. And I go, okay, well, here we go. Down the hatch. Let's see what happens. So we get in the room. The nurse comes in and says, well, you know that we're going to get through one. If there's more than one stent that you need, the doctor will make a call. Well, I mean, it's his call to go to number 2. If it's more than 2, you're pretty much ready for open heart. You're going to go open heart. They're going to wheel you out in 30 minutes, and right then and there. We get in there, and he keeps going. He keeps going. And I go, well, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I feel him going through my chest, right? And I said, okay, we all good? Well, I'm out. I get back in the room, and they tell my wife that he had 3. And the doctor felt comfortable enough and confident enough to take care of all 3. And
Without
all
the
3
open heart.
without open heart.
Okay.
And each artery was 95% clogged.
Wow.
I was heading for what they told me, it was a widowmaker. And I'm
Mm.
like, wow, how did I escape that? I guess it was drinking the Lord's water. I
Hey
I
man,
don't know.
God's got more
Some
for you
plans,
here.
right?
You've got
So
some
I don't know
plans in
what.
store for you. Hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't brush it off. I said, okay, well that's good. And afterwards, unbelievable. I felt so much better. I was up walking that evening after the surgery or after the procedure, and now I'm in therapy. In fact, after we get done here, I run over to start a whole cardio program. But uh, that's the episode. Okay, that's the episode. The physical situation of watching your health, and again, bringing leadership into it. You have to convince the team. Well, first, you have to convince yourself that you, being the leader, are the most important part of your whole enterprise.
Yeah.
And if you're not healthy, how do you think that anything else is going to be healthy? Right? It's not,
You
because you're
can't you can't
distracted.
you can't be effective leading other people if you can't effectively lead yourself and listen to
Absolutely.
yourself. And so
Yeah.
kudos to you for listening to yourself and
Yeah.
listening to your body and saying, look, I got to go get this taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, you are the most important person. And a lot of people will take it to an extreme, or they'll sit back and go, well, you know what? I got to be in my back office to be the leader. No, you don't. That's not where you lead. You lead by being a presence, and you lead by being out front and taking care of yourself. If you ask, I'm learning this, and maybe it's not for everybody, but my teams don't want me around. They don't want me in the building the whole time. They want me establishing something new. They want to see me out there growing. They want me to take care of myself because I am the leader,
Yeah, that's right.
and if you can't lead, then, where are we? So they do their thing, and we're not perfect with our processes or SOPs and all that stuff. You know, my way of leading is to give a lot of autonomy to the team. I trust them.
Love
I
that.
trust them as men. I trust them as, and no offense to, I don't have women working for me except for my sister. I did, but in any sense, women or men, I give you the space you need. And I will know whether or not what type of training we'll need, where we got to go with it. Um, and we roll from there. So, um,
And Greg, I'll say this. I'll jump in and say that's a
yeah,
testament to your leadership, but also a testament to your team's leadership to really be vocal enough and proactive with you enough to say, hey, Greg, like, we love you, but we don't want you here.
right.
The fact that you are empowering them to grow and develop themselves and their store is a testament to everyone's leadership in the process. And it shows that a great leader can be a great follower as well. Prior to us going
Yeah,
live on this recording,
yeah,
you talked about how you're getting better at being more of a student than a teacher,
yeah.
especially with your doctors. Can you talk about the importance of what it means from a leadership perspective to not always just be the leader, but also be led by a leader?
Oh yeah, yeah, being led. Yeah, well, I can start off with two directions on that one. First, the follow up to the procedure
Mm-hmm.
was the fact of getting back on the horse and getting in the groove. I think it's important to understand, at least from my experience here, is that it literally took 2 or maybe 3 weeks for me to have the courage to go back into work mode. And I say that honestly because I did not want to leave the house. I didn't want to leave my wife. I had that thought of, I could be a tick away from not being here.
Yeah.
So a lot of psychological stuff goes through your brain on when it's time to go back. And I think that's important for small business owners and shop owners like ourselves, and anyone to understand, because the last words that I asked my doctor was, "What's my limitations?" Because I didn't want to cross that line. I
Yeah.
didn't want to say that I'm on the bike, and I'm hitting 140, 150 BPMs, and I don't want to go. Well, I'm not going to croak over if I hit 150, am I? I
Yeah.
want to know where my guardrails are.
Sure.
So that was really important, Josh, is getting back on it, and the mental side of it is difficult, especially when you have something that deals with your heart. It could be a brain, spine, whatever. It could be a broken leg. You know that you're going to walk again, right?
Mhm.
In most instances. But when you have a heart situation, or any major organ like that, you got to say to yourself, like, and I do say the heart, because when that goes, you go.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
want to know, all right, what can happen? I'm driving down the road and will I spaz out? That kind of thing. Anyway, but the other issue of listening, this is where, a hard-headed guy, a guy who has, people depending on him, all of that, uh, where you have to start to listen to others who are there for your benefit. The parallel is, don't that isn't that what we do for our own clients, is that we try to guide them to a safe, reliable vehicle? Well, our doctors are trying to get a safe, reliable body and a healthy mind and spirit. So why aren't we taking that into consideration?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we have to have that mindset of saying, wait a minute, these are professionals. They know what they're talking about. You know,
Let's listen.
why aren't we listening?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I love the fact that, listening is such an important component of communication. When we think about the word communication, we typically think about the words coming out of our mouth rather than the words coming into our ears. And
yeah,
many of us are listening to reply instead of listening to understand. And
yeah,
so being able to listen to understand and truly take what the doctor or even what our customers are sharing with us, they've got to feel heard. They deserve to feel heard.
yeah.
And so being able to listen to understand and then be the educator at the same time, it's a skill set. But speaking of a skill set, you have
Yeah.
another skill set that you haven't mentioned yet. You're getting ready to, or have you already started your own podcast?
We do. We have some small shows out there. Shop Soup. We are working with the great team at Auto Service Leaders, Bryce
Yeah.
Evans and Anna and Katie, and I'm super excited. We just launched last week. We announced that we're going to be doing lunch and learns for leaders, I think, or something. Anything.
Okay, cool.
We haven't really come up with a set title yet, but yeah, I'm excited. I want to bring to the audience, I want to bring to the industry a different kind of story for our shop owners and techs, inside and out, because I think sometimes we have a tendency to lean on just our industry folks, as great as we are, as great as the people are that are in it. But there are elements outside of our industry that I think are even more important, and how we learn and where we learn from, on either how we be better people, better owners, and better leaders. We have to understand different elements and different, I guess, not just from different people, but just different practices that we need exposure for everyone. And I hope to bring that from my diverse growing up, the elements that I've been part of, the environments I've been part of, my mistakes, and maybe my successes. I think that the people that I've been, fortunate and blessed enough to learn from inside and out, I think that there's value to bring that to the table for us as an industry. So it's going to be an interesting platform. The frequency isn't going to be right there right away. However, I think it's going to be strong. I do believe that it's going to evolve into a really great show that coincides with what the value of the auto service leader team is. Um, Bryce and I got together. Bryce has had different lives in the industry, and so have I. So we decided to get together and see where we complement one another. My style of interviewing is similar to what yours would be, very conversational. And we want to bring out the elements of an individual or more, and let them share their story. What inspires them?
Yeah.
What gets them going? What makes them open the door in the morning and feel glad when they close it at night? So
Love that type of vibe, Greg. Multiple minds are better than one. And so being able to explore more than just the shop side of things
mhm.
can open up a whole world of opportunities for,
Yeah,
for folks,
it
because just,
does.
to your point, you've got your own perspective. that no one else has, which means you have the ability to influence those around you. And if you can be influential, you can affect change. And so I'm excited to listen and watch Shop Soup. I'll be subscribing. And you partner with an incredible individual, Bryce Evans. Bryce, if you're listening, you're next on this episode or on this podcast, because I would love to have him as a guest.
Yeah, he's great. Really is. Very good.
My last question to you, Greg, is best advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Listen more than you speak. And the other one would be my dad. My dad had said it, because he really, I think he was a pro at it. He learned the importance of sitting in the back of the room. And he would say that, when you learn to sit in the back of the room, before you know it, you're actually in the front of it. Because if you stay silent and quiet and learn from the back, people will start to gravitate to come to you for some of their answers. He did it regularly, and I watched him do this. And at some of the events through the Arco and Atlantic, and he would be by himself, and before you know it, he had an audience around him. And I thought that was really unique. And he just told me, he says, if you just listen and learn and speak with confidence, that's where you get your audience. And I've been fortunate enough to speak to, be on the circuit and speak to many of my colleagues. It's always fun. It's always gratifying. And I'm always humbled when I get the opportunity. Because I know that you've been in it, and for the decades that I've been in it, I think our industry is one of the most giving there is. We wear our heart on our sleeve. We bleed for our clients to the extent where, we give a quart every time they come in, it seems, and we'll give more. So we're part of life in more ways than one. And it's consistent. It's not like you're down and grabbing a different burger at McDonald's and seeing a different person every day. Your credibility is on the line, your talent's on the line, your accountability is on the line, and your responsibility is on the line. When that person leaves your service bay, that car needs to perform safely. They're carrying kids, they're carrying their life. And we may not work on open heart or perform, a stent operation while you're sitting on a table and you're living and breathing. But we do have that responsibility of making sure our clients arrive safely, consistently safely in a vehicle that, can harm, maim, or injure. So I loved it. This industry has always checked off every box I could think of. It still does. I truly, truly love the people in it. It's always fun. I miss not being able to get out like I had been. But Josh, I'll tell you, as you start to grow yourself into the industry and you get deeper involved, you'll find the same thing. We're salt of the earth. And I hope that doesn't change. I know that, there's a lot of things that probably will make us change. I just hope that we keep that small essence of what we're about, So
Greg, everything you just shared, man, like I have goosebumps right now. It's a good reminder that while we are in the service industry, we're in the people industry. We get to serve people each and every day and to truly make a difference and make an impact on people in our lives. And so speaking of people, networking is a huge part of this industry. I'm going to be seeing you at Tools in May. So
I'll be with you at Tools.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll look forward to seeing you at Tools. If you're listening, if you're watching this episode, join us at Tools May 29th through June 1st in Lancaster, PA. And thank you, Greg, for being on the Limitless Leadership podcast.
Josh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and definitely we'll be making a shop soup recipe. You and I.
I would love that. I would love that, my friend. Hey, I'd love that.
Well, absolutely.
Folks, as you know, every episode we look to transform our leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. So thank you for tuning in to Limitless Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.